Infrastructure has been somewhat of a dreaded word as Congress spent months debating spending, but Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg is crediting port improvements for saving Christmas. And today, an iconic American structure built more than a century ago reopens to the public. We've got those stories and more ahead for you. Let's get started. People can look forward to cycling, walking, running, rollerblading, fishing, watching sunrises and sunsets, and just about anything else you could do on a bridge once again. That's along a section of bridge that may look familiar to those headed south. The famed old 7-mile bridge that runs parallel to the Florida Keys Overseas Highway in the Middle Keys opens back up today. The 2.2-mile span has received a $44 million renovation that began in 2017. Nicknamed Old 7, the bridge was built as part of railroad magnate Henry Flagler's Florida Keys Overseas Railroad that was completed in January 1912, connecting the Keys with each other and mainland Florida for the first time. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg visited the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach yesterday. The secretary's visit began with a working meeting with labor leaders, elected officials, and state transportation leaders to talk about a new $52 million grant the Department of Transportation awarded to the Port of Long Beach, aimed to support improvements in goods movement. After the meeting, Secretary Buttigieg took a boat tour with elected officials and representatives from the ports, along with labor leaders. The tour updated the secretary on port operations as well as highlighting recent DOT investments, including the Long Beach International Gateway Bridge and other critical work, including Los Angeles's recent efforts on electrification of port equipment and infrastructure. Secretary Buttigieg then held a press conference where he highlighted progress that the Supply Chain Task Force has made in alleviating congestion.
One of the reasons why Christmas was not in fact canceled is that ports like LA and Long Beach moved record levels
Not far
of goods,
from there, the Coast Guard had to rescue a group of
record
Haitians
high
trying to make
in
their
terms of
way
retail
to
sales
the
this holiday
U.S.
season.
176 Haitians were pulled from an overloaded, unseaworthy wooden sailing vessel as it approached the Florida Keys. 10 were brought to a hospital with symptoms of dehydration. The group will be transferred to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as is routine. Coast Guard crews have already rescued 557 Haitians 3 months into the current fiscal year. That's up sharply from last year, when more than 1,500 Haitians had been rescued by year's end, and the overall annual trend that followed the previous administration. In Pennsylvania, 4 people who were aboard a medical helicopter are said to be doing all right after it crashed in a residential area of suburban Philadelphia yesterday afternoon. The aircraft had taken off from out of state. It encountered a web of power lines and buildings, which pilots managed to avoid, but ultimately hit a street and slid into bushes outside a church. After the rescue, Upper Darby Police Superintendent Timothy M. Bernhardt called what happened an absolute miracle and said he can't wait to shake the pilot's hand for getting the helicopter down the way they did.